Welcome to the ThunderCast, your Marshall Athletics podcast produced by the fans, for the fans, with your hosts, Russ Livingood and KD Hudnall. We're bringing you the thundering word on the thundering herd each and every week, so keep it right here. The ThunderCast is on the loose. Thanks for downloading another episode of the ThunderCast. You can follow us on Twitter at ThunderCast_pod. The ThunderCast, of course, proud members of the College Huddle Football Podcasting Network. You can find everybody who's a part of the College Huddle at thecollegehuddle.com. Makes it really easy to listen to some other fan-driven podcasts of some of our opponents even. I know that the Virginia Tech guys had one out this week previewing Marshall. We directed them over to that show, and hopefully they got a few more herd ears on their episode this week, and you can expect more of that as the season progresses. Sometimes, when our schedules line up, we may even be able to do guest spots, and we may be able to have them come on our show and that kind of thing. But for right now, it's just a little too hectic. Anyway, big week. It was a big week, both on the field and off the field as it relates to herd athletics. Mm-hmm. And I want to talk about, of course, all of that. I'm sure that we will. But since we've got so much to talk about, the big game in Blacksburg and some great showings this weekend from some of our other Olympic sports, recruiting news is out there and just a lot. So let's get into it with a quick word from our sponsors at Leasure Oliver PLLC.
If you've been hurt in a wreck, call the law firm of Leasure Oliver PLLC. Find them at 304carwreck.com.
Russ, after an up and down emotional weekend, really, I think I'm just kind of ready to turn the page. I'm really ready already. And just after 2 football games for a bye week, I need a little cleansing kind of deal and a reset kind of deal. But I am excited to talk about the things. I don't know what you've come up with. I don't know what we're talking about, but I am excited to at least talk some herd athletics. We're going to break down the game, of course, the football game, but I want to talk about some other things too. So hit me with at least 5 things every herd fan needs to know this week.
Well, here are 6 things every herd fan needs to know this week, as always, brought to you by IgniteLink, the Tri-State's premier IT management team. Number 1 just came out early today. The Ohio State game on September 21st has its kickoff time set. The game will be at noon and televised nationally on Fox.
Now, I don't think this is like the big noon Saturday thing that Fox does, because that's their version of College Game Day. But still, the noon time slot on Fox is a marquee time slot, right? It's kind of a marquee time slot anyway if you're going to be on national television, because everybody just gets up and gets going. It's the first games right after you're watching College Game Day or Big Noon Saturday or whatever you're watching. Obviously going to be a super massively huge, tough task to go into Columbus and remain even somewhat competitive, because Ohio State is just always freaking stacked. And we'll talk about that when that game rolls around. The big news, of course, is that it is a marquee opportunity for our herd to go in and make some noise, both on a team level and, guys, folks, we have some players individually that can do a lot for themselves. Guys like Mike Green, who is off to a great start already, a really great start to this 2-game season. You go into Columbus and do some damage against the Buckeyes and a Buckeye offensive line and get to a Buckeye quarterback a couple of times, or drop a running back in the backfield a couple of times. All of a sudden, your perception on a national stage and in a Sun Belt stage is like, holy crap, this guy really is legit. He doesn't just do this against Stony Brook. He doesn't just have a flash in the pan game against Virginia Tech. This is a week in and week out thing. So huge news for sure.
And just got to tell you, the article out of the Columbus Dispatch that announced it, and Ohio State announced it, they did say they're first as part of the big noon Saturday broadcast.
Oh, so it is big time.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah. hate to correct you, but wanted to get that out there.
That's not a correction because I didn't know. I didn't know if it was or what. I assumed that there would be a conference game since there's so many big time teams that are now in the Big Ten. I thought, man, surely there's a conference game that's going to,
No, I mean, now I can't swear that they're not going to also show something out west that has some kind of West Coast 9 a.m. kickoff. And people out there would watch that instead of this game. This might not be the only game broadcast all across the country, but at least over here in this region and on the East Coast, I can't imagine that it's any other game that they're going to do.
Look, we know that the Big Ten runs through Columbus, and I don't think they give a crap if they're on the West Coast. They don't care what you want to watch. You're going to watch the Buckeyes probably. So that could mean literal millions of eyeballs on Huff's Herd and the boys in Kelly Green. So huge opportunity.
Yeah, it truly is. I mean, I hate a noon kickoff unless it is here at home and it's later on in the season, like a November game or something, and you can just get up and have a 6 a.m. tailgate and do just a huge brunch tailgate, breakfast tailgate, whatever, get the game over with, and then you've got all afternoon and evening for the rest of the weekend.
Well, yeah.
September.
Right. In November, that's different. You want to be able to play football when the sun's up.
Right. In September in Columbus, I don't like it. So we're now, when that came out, we were already leaning that way anyway, but we're driving up and get a hotel room the night before, and then you got to get up, get over, find a place to park, and go tailgate and get home afterwards. So the plans have been set in the Living Good household now. Great news for the Herd for it being nationally televised. It would have just been pretty cool for a 2:30 or 3:30 kick for me.
Yeah.
Number 2, swim and dive schedule has been released. I'm not going to get into every single meet, but just know that the season starts on September the 28th, which is right around the corner, and that will be with the green and white meet right here in Huntington.
Awesome, man. Love it. Get out to the natatorium if you can find your way into the stands.
I was just telling somebody the other day how awesome it was to go to a swim and dive meet, and was explaining to them how to get there and where to go in and everything, and just how cool it was. And they said, I tell you what, I'm going to go this year. And I said, I'll see you over there if I can, because I'm telling you, you're going to have a really good time. It's just a fun time. These athletes, I think, really love to look up and see people up there in the stands. And I got to tell you, that one that I was able to go to, the schedule just lined up that way with no youth sports that day and everything. I went over, and it was pretty packed crowd. So it's a fun time. Look at the schedule. It's on herdzone.com. You can also find it if you're on Twitter. You can go to the Herd's swim and dive account, and they will have it freshly posted in a flyer graphic for you to bookmark, save, whatever you want, get the schedule out, try to make it to a couple of meets this year.
You know what the athletic department ought to do is
put the towels out for sale.
Yes, I haven't forgotten about that, by the way. But no, they should do a I don't know, just like a little. You could get a Herd prize pack if you go to every home match for every team that we have, in a year, the swim and dive thing, a track and field event, golf might be hard to do, but you know what I mean? Go to a tennis match, and that would be something pretty cool. And I think, you put together a nice little prize pack for everybody. It doesn't have to be, something super high dollar items, but everybody could have a prize pack and then enter all of those people for a drawing for something big, just to try to, get more asses in the seats to our Olympic sports. And hey, man, crazier things have happened. I think, and we've said it with so many other sports, you go once, you tend to go back. Right. Yeah. And I think that's something that Christian Spears and the athletic department and the marketing department should maybe put their heads together and try to come up with something like that,
Well, they just came out with the biggest fan for football. So
Right.
you can take those people that qualify from that. They're already going to have that. If they check in at all 6 games, that's going to have that sport taken care of. Then you've got men's and women's soccer. You've got swimming in the fall, and then basketball later on in the fall for both men's and women's. Again, I think it would be hard to hit every. I mean, you can go to tennis up in Barbersville. It is a drive to get up to the mall.
Yeah.
It's not right on campus, but cross country and golf are just a little bit different because you're either there at the finish line or you're there at hole one or whatever.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like maybe not every sport, but every sport that we are able to house fans.
Yeah.
And you can do that for the fall, and then you could do another individual contest also for the spring, and then you could just do a holistic type contest for somebody that went to everything in the fall and in the spring. It would be really cool. I think this would be it's a worthwhile idea. I'm not saying that logistically it would be easy, but I think it's worth a conversation and seeing if you could come up with a way to make it work and give it a shot. Because, we as two fans with a podcast can only ask so much to go to these other events. But we're not dangling, the carrot out there, and the athletic department has a lot more resources than we have to come up with things like and make them more enticing. So it's worth at least a conversation, I think.
Number 3 is more schedule news. Tennis schedule has been released as well. Season starts with an ITA All-American event from September 21st through September 23rd. So we're looking at under 2 weeks for tennis to start and under 3 weeks for swim and dive to start.
Yeah, going to be really in the thick of it then, man. By the time this Western Michigan football game rolls around, we're going to be in the throes of fall sports big time.
Big time.
And I expect a really good competitive season once again from Herd Tennis. And I don't know that it's going to come down to, the Virginia schools that will have to get past. Obviously, it probably will, but I'm not saying, is there somebody else that Marshall's going to have to get through as well? Old Dominion and James Madison, you can just kind of count on to be the top 2 or 2 of the top 3 teams, in the Sun Belt as far as tennis goes. So has somebody else, crept up there and made some noise with the Herd? Or are we firmly in that top 3 schools yet again? That's yet to be determined.
I do know ODU has a couple of players that are on watch lists and top rank of individuals and such. So it's looking like it's going to go through them again. Number 4, Peyton Neal, Izzy Collier, and Bryn Brown make the Eastern Michigan Tournament All-Tournament team, and Brown takes home the MVP.
She's on a tear.
Yeah.
I mean, on a tear since this volleyball season has started.
And I will tell you how big of a tear here in a second.
Oh, okay.
No, I thought you were going to keep talking. I'm sorry. I can go any minute. But she had her first triple double of the year. So we had talked last week about how many double doubles she had gotten and all that. But now we are like talking. Listen to this. Daggone, where did it go? I just had it up. Well, apparently I'm going to talk about it later because I do not have that graphic up anymore. But she had just these crazy stats to get the MVP. And, man, I really wish I had it. Let me see.
I'll tell you what, while you're looking, I thought it was really cool that she posted that she had a big family turnout up there. And that was really cool. So huge family turnout to a tournament like, she's from the Toledo area, right? So I doubt that the whole fam turns out for matches all the time in Huntington because that's a bit of a hoof. But they decided to make the trek for this one. And for her to bring home an MVP award in front of all those friends and family, man, that had to be really special. I think that just kind of adds to the weekend for Bryn, fresh off of that Setter of the Week trophy or Setter of the Week award for the Sun Belt Conference to go into this tournament, bring home an MVP and all conference. Again, that's the kind of tear I'm talking about. I don't know about individual stats and what she's
Sure.
doing match in and match out. But damn, just the accolades alone is enough to, like, some people won't do that all year. You know what I mean? They won't accomplish that all year. She's been on a tear since the freaking season started.
Yeah. So here's the line in the article. It didn't have the stat tweet that I've had earlier, but it said against George Washington, she picked up her second triple-double of the weekend with 15 assists, 14 kills, and 12 digs. But earlier she had, I think she got at least a double-double in each of the 3 matches this weekend.
Wow.
2 of them being triple-doubles. I mean, it was monster. Fresh off of the previous week, she was the setter of the setter of the week. I imagine that she's going to be in the running for that, maybe even get it a second week in a row. That comes out, I believe, on Tuesdays. So as this airs, we are recording late Monday night. We won't know that, but I can't imagine getting 2 triple-doubles will have her out of the competition. Whoever it was that did better than her, if someone beats her for that, I'd love to see that stat line for the weekend.
Yeah, I would also like to mention, you mentioned Peyton Neal earlier, and the SBC put out a graphic a little bit ago about some national rankings for total digs, and Peyton Neal lands on that list, by the way. Number 33 nationally in this young season with 105 digs on the season. So Herd Volleyball doing its thing a little bit, man. You know, we talked about this last week that when we spoke to Ari a year ago, she felt that the ceiling, or that the floor for this program had been raised, but the season just didn't play out the way they had hoped a year ago. And maybe we're seeing that corner get turned now that she was expecting to see get turned to last season a little bit. And that's kind of wild to think because of some of the great players that have moved on from Herd Volleyball through exhaustion of eligibility over the past year. But damn, you know, we did return a lot of good players that were big time contributors of last year's team. And when you hit the portal like she hit the portal, and you're developing your high school players like she's been developing her high school, I think maybe we were just a half of a season behind the curve, and now it feels like we're right here in the corners. It is turning. We might still be in the turn, but it's turning.
I finally found the other one. It was for her first triple-double, and it was even more monster, and that's why I was hoping to find it. 20 kills, 21 assists, and 14 digs in the first match. In that one, Peyton Neal had 26 digs, and in that GW game, she had 21. So like you're saying, she's right up there, but Bryn Brown is just killing it with triple-doubles, double-doubles. I mean, she's just a force right now.
Yeah.
All right, number 5. This was really cool news, big news. Bryce Slay commits to men's basketball.
Huge news for all of us guys our age. I mean, really, first of all, if you're a Marshall basketball fan, the name Slay, you're gonna know, right? But for guys that are our age, from our era, it really hits home because we were here when Tamar was playing, and he's an all-time great.
Watched him in high school too.
Yeah, right. He's an all-time great player for Herd basketball, and now, just like we have seen with football over the past couple of years, it's a second generation vibe, man. It's Bryce Slay coming to Herd Hoops to play for Cornelius Jackson, right? Somebody that Tamar Slay knows really well, right?
Yeah.
So this is just cool. I think I have been watching this from a distance for well over a year. And I thought, because it's one of those situations where you go, do you think he wants to come here and constantly be compared to Tamar Slay, just like Cole's being constantly compared with Chad? Or does he want to go somewhere and forge his own path? And, you know, and what all plays into that decision? And because to me as a dad, I would, if I were a star athlete at, you know, Marshall, let's say, dude, I would be over the freaking moon if my son was like, I want to play where you played, Dad. You know what I mean? That would be everything to me. And I saw some of the pictures that Tamar posted. Dude, the passing of the torch picture was freaking awesome. That was the coolest thing.
How long you think that was planned?
Oh my God, since birth.
And you said you followed it really close the last year, but we've been looking at highlights and tweets about him, because he played for his dad, there in the Charlotte area. And it's been about 3 or 4 years, that we've been seeing this kid grow up with highlight tweets and, videos and AAU scores this and that. And, it's always one of those things is, will we have the inside track here, or will he get just so big that he can't say no to like some bigger school,
right.
And I think that him coming here, I mean, that's just another little feather in Coach Corney's
right
in his hat.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at before. And this is definitely not a jab or an angle at Dan, Coach D'Antoni, at all.
Right.
But it's a different relationship, right? Because Tamar and Corney, that's a different relationship, right?
Yeah, I mean, they were around that same area, Oak Hill and Beckley. They were, in around the same years. They were around the same here in college, the same years. That relationship goes back 25, 30 years, maybe longer, you don't know. And it's just, man, it's going to be nice to have him here,
Yeah, it'll be so cool. And it'll be for a whole nother generation of Herd fans to be what we were as undergrads when Tamar was playing. They will be those guys and gals as Bryce is playing. It's so cool. And I don't think that Corney, by the way, and his staff are done by a long shot. There's still there's still several prospects out there that I am keeping a close eye on. One is an in-state prospect, and there was one that was just on a visit the other day. We're not naming names because we don't get into that. You know what I mean? I'm content to say prospects, right? And I don't know, man. For all of the, I don't know how to say this. For all of the question marks for folks that just were like, well, Marshall just decided to promote from within and didn't do a national search and blah, 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 like all that stuff. Wins and losses might be what they are for a couple of years while you're building out a roster and while you're doing what you're doing. But I think ultimately it's relationships like this that make you go, they did the right thing. They're able to keep, star players, because this is not like Bryce Slay is just going to be a roster spot that is taken. He's going to be a contributor, maybe not as a freshman, maybe as a freshman, but maybe he's going to be a contributor at some point. He's going to be a star player at some point. This is not, hey, man, you're my friend, Russ, you're my buddy. I'll give your son a scholarship. I'd love to have him. It ain't that. This kid's a star player.
His height, his wingspan, this is coming from a swing or guard position at the height and wingspan that he's at. It's just a huge pickup no matter what his last name was going to be.
Right.
But the fact that he has been coached by an NBA player dad, and been in like these high-level AAU things, and it's not like we're taking someone from here in Huntington where somebody can say, yeah, but the competition. He's been playing in Charlotte, in AAU regionally and nationally. He does have a big name out there. Check the recruiting.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is cool. It's cool news on so many levels, right? And one last thing, you mentioned you coached by Tamar, who of course was an NBA player, and he has been doing this AAU circuit and at a high level, high level circuits. But it's even deeper than that, because he knows what it means to walk out of the tunnel into the Cam Henderson Center and get on that floor and play in front of those fans in that arena. And that's something that countless other coaches in the country just do not know about. And he does. So you've got the family tie, you've got the Marshall tie, you've got the high level of playing, and the AAU circuits and all that stuff. So many boxes get checked that it's just so freaking cool. You know, it doesn't matter that his name's Slay. That just makes it cooler. That's
Yeah.
all. That just makes it cooler. They got a really good prospect who just happens to be the son of a Marshall legend.
Our sixth and final thing this week is Clayton Thomas ties the Guyan Country Club's course record with a 62, which is 9 under, in the first round of the Joseph Figaines Invitational earlier today.
Dang. How about that? Coming out of the gate swinging, son.
Lot more to go into discussion on when we get to that part of Around the Herd. But just want to say, you know, this being the kickoff to, well, the tee off to the season, your first round of the first invitational or tournament of the season, and you set a course record or tie a course record on your home course. That's pretty daggone special.
Yeah.
9 under on the first time. I've got a golfing buddy that is a member out at Guyan, and he actually put that out on Facebook. And I saw that at the same time, you know, switching back and forth, doing a little notes for this, try to see what everybody did on the leaderboard. And the leaderboard didn't say it was course record. So I was just happened to, you know, I got a notification on Facebook. So I scrolled a second and I was like, well, coincidentally, there's a really good tidbit here, you know, huge to get. I mean, you think everybody that's listening to this that maybe has played out there and everything, it's like, oh, you know, I played with so-and-so and they were just on and they got a 64 one day. Well, you know, now maybe this will put it in a little bit of perspective, but it being a first round of the first tournament of the season, that's pretty big.
Yeah, that is pretty cool, man. Mid-season form right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Not too bad.
And again, we're going to have a lot more on that and more in Around the Herd. But for now, that does it for everything on this week. 6 things every Herd fan needs to know this week. As always, brought to you by Ignite Link.
Well, that was the calm before the storm, I think. It was good to have some upbeat conversation, and there's still some positives that we can pull from this Virginia Tech football game, but I think they are outweighed by what did not happen versus what did happen. And the stats speak to it. The indicators speak to it. And I'm pretty sure that our general conversation is going to speak to it. So let's get into it. Your Virginia Tech recap for the Marshall Thundering Herd football team. It was a loss, of course, 31-14, dropping the Herd now to 1-1 on this young season. Still haven't, of course, played a Sun Belt Conference game. So 0-0 in Sun Belt Conference play. Marshall remains defeated in Blacksburg, Virginia. Still has not won a game. But I still feel like for the longest, this one was one where I hate to say that Virginia Tech let Marshall hang around, but it feels like Marshall was in this game for a really long time. And it could have been a closer loss, or it even could have been a really close win if some things just would have went the other way. It just didn't, you know. To lose this one by 17 seems a little excessive based on how not great either team was on offense. I mean, either team wasn't that good. But nonetheless, Virginia Tech holds serve at home and gets the win 31-14. Indicators, Russ, favor Virginia Tech in a big way. Total yards, 338 for the Hokies to Marshall's 278. Time of possession makes you almost want to barf. 23-35 for the Herd to 36-25 for Virginia Tech, minus 12.50 for Marshall, damn near a whole quarter. First downs, 12 for the Herd, 20 for Virginia Tech. Third downs, about even. So a stat that usually goes a long way in determining a game was not that apparent in this one. 5 of 17 for Marshall. Not much better. Virginia Tech, 5 of 16. Penalties. Marshall actually won the penalty battle, just 5 for the Herd, so that's only 6 through 2 games. For 45 yards in this one, the Hokies committed 8 infractions for 58 yards. Turnovers also wasn't that bad, really, considering Marshall 1, Virginia Tech 0. So it wasn't like Marshall couldn't hold on to the ball. They just, you know, let one slip away. My big, my general points for this one, which we will all expound on later, offense just fell behind the defense. Defense won the day in this one, in the battle of the herd. The defense did hold their own for as long as they could hold on, and then it was a Jekyll and Hyde special teams day for me. They won by the special teams and died by the special teams in a lot of instances in this one. Russ, before I get into any stats, you were there at the game. What do you feel like in retrospect, without diving into the particulars?
I'll give you a little overall, and then I've got something about those indicators that you mentioned there. But fun day to go. We didn't get down there until about 2:30. Again, youth sports. Mm-hmm. We drove down that day, got down there, tailgated a little bit. A lot of Virginia Tech and Marshall family split tailgates, very friendly confines. I got exactly one. Marshall sucks in about the most laissez-faire way that someone could say it. I didn't get screamed at or anything, just as we were walking to campus. Uphill both ways, by the way, there in Blacksburg. But a college student with a bunch of other college students crossing a crosswalk just turned around and said, "Marshall sucks." And I was like, man, if that's the worst thing I hear today.
It's like, he's got a streak going and he had to keep the streak alive. Yeah, so I had to say it to somebody.
He definitely wasn't into it. I can tell you that. But
it's going through the motions. That's piss poor fandom, man.
But huge turnout up there. It showed up well when I went to do the rewatch of the big section of green up there. It was a sold-out game. It was a great atmosphere. It always is down there. But 66, 67,000, whatever it ended up being, probably on here. Yeah, 65,632. And just the intro, the flyover. I mean, it was just big-time college football. Mm-hmm. And we came out and we held our own through the first half, even with the offensive woes that we were having. And then we're only down by 3 around halfway through the third quarter. And then they scored twice to get that final score. I want to go back to the indicators before I flip it back to you. And I'm going to run down them. First downs, 12 to Marshall, 20 to Virginia Tech. You expect that with this score. But then third down efficiency, 5 of 17 versus 5 of 16. Fourth down, 1 of 3 versus 1 of 2. That last one was on the very last play that we had, throwing to the end zone, trying to get a touchdown. Total yards, 278 to 338. And Virginia Tech had one long pass of 49 yards that was a diving catch. If that is barely over or underthrown, if that ground causes the pass to be incomplete, whatever, you're looking at this next stat line. Not only would that have put that to 278 to 259, to 289, whatever. The very next thing, they would have had, instead of 130 passing yards to our 131, which is as even as it's going to get, they would have had 81 passing yards for the game if they didn't hit on that huge diving catch. Completions to attempts, 13 of 36, not good. 14 of 21, but again, they only had 6.2 yards per pass, and that's with that monster 49-yarder that they hit. Rushing, 147 to 208. A lot of those yards came in the third and fourth quarter where they were trying to run the clock down for Virginia Tech to get up to that. 51 rushing attempts for them. 51 to get to that 208. Penalties you hit on, turnovers you hit on. It's that time of possession that kills you, and that's going to really be one of the big things that I talk about here later on when we dive into everything.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. This was not a dominant Virginia Tech team, and the score, it's a little, it's not indicative of the game that you see, It's because they flexed their muscles late in the game and ran the ball and chewed up clock and, wore down that defense because the offense wasn't doing anything. So That's what you end up with. So let's talk about that. Let's talk
Okay.
about the stats for the Herd. Stone Earl is your quarterback starter for week 2 in this one. Just like in week 1, he goes 13 of 36, just 36%, 131 yards for a 3.6 average, 1 touchdown, 1 interception with a QBR of 13.6. He had 10 carries for another 31 yards, but he was sacked twice. A.J. Turner, leading rusher for the Herd, despite only having 6 carries. 103-yard day on 6 carries. How awesome is that? 17.2 yards per rush with a long of 69. Nice. Christian Fitzpatrick, 4 receptions, 73 yards, 18.3 yards per reception, and a touchdown with a long of 25, and had perhaps the catch of the year for the Herd. Holy shit, that was awesome. Landed on the Mossed segment the next morning. So if Randy sees it, you know he likes it, right? Elijah Metcalf also 4 receptions, just 22 yards for Elijah, 5.5 yards per reception. And that's kind of it for the Herd. I got some bullet points here, and then we can talk about this offense a little bit. Just general things. Like, we knew that Virginia Tech was not going to be Stony Brook, obviously, right? We talked about that. But half of the total yards from a week ago. So Marshall was only able to put up half as many yards. It's apparent in this one that the offense was just stagnant. I think that's the word you kind of have to use. It was stagnant. Through 2 games, this one is starting to be concerning to me now, Russ. Through 2 games, Marshall tight ends have now have a combined 1 reception for 0 yards for a position group that we felt was one of the top 3 on this entire football team. Mm-hmm. AJ Turner, to me, has stamped himself as running back number 1. It is almost undeniable that on a handful of carries, he's got over 220 yards and is leading the nation in yards per carry. I think the kid is special, and he could be the next in what I tweeted earlier, a decade-long run of dominant Herd running backs. And I just chose a decade. I could have gone back farther and talked about, Doug Chapman and Ahmad Bradshaw, and took it all the way back to the start of the FBS era if I wanted to. But you're right. My last bullet point is that minus 12 minutes, 50 seconds of time of possession. It's what it is unfair to a defense, because you alluded to it. What it allows to happen is being on the field so much late in the game, you're going to get those runs and you're going to be playing tired. And it really doesn't matter how deep you are at that point. Everybody's kind of tired. It's just unfair. That's an obstacle that the offense has to help out a really good defense with. So what do you got for the boys in green on offense? But not your grade synopsis, but what about this?
So first, we just could not get anything going. And everyone that is listening, I hope that you listen with some objective ears to what I'm about to say. I went to the game. One, they sit you up so high. I said on Twitter, I saw the call sign on the plane when it did the flyover. Mm-hmm. So there were several times, especially when the first half with the sun, I couldn't tell you the letters or numbers on the back of the jerseys for the Herd. When Jabari Ishmael had to go out, I said, I can't see that number, glare on my glasses and everything. Someone in front of me said it's 83, and I said, there's not an 83 on defense that I'm aware of. Is that 93? And we finally squinted and said, yeah, that's what it is, once he was on the sideline. So that's the kind of view that I had for the game. I thought that Stone Earl was widely inaccurate in the first half. And when I did my customary rewatch and had the benefit of pause and rewind and everything, he wasn't inaccurate in the first half. He had an abysmal half for a completion percentage and yards, and I'm not saying that he didn't. Mm-hmm. But there was only one true overthrow in the first half, and it was a bad overthrow. But the only other ball that wasn't a catchable ball, number 4 for Virginia Tech, Mansour Delane, just got away with, an absolute huge holding penalty, just grabbing him by the chest of the jersey, or pass interference for holding, and it made it uncatchable and an overthrow. Everything else, it was just either a drop or the Virginia Tech defense was just getting their hands in on every single pass that came toward them. One of the drops, I told you this earlier, it looked like Brian Robinson had a clear path to the end zone on a quick slant, and Earl just hit him in stride right in his hands, and he dropped it.
Mm-hmm.
So the first half wasn't nearly as bad when I actually got to go back and watch it as far as Stone Earl and the offense looked. It looked like in the second half they were just ready to break out. We've seen something like this before, maybe even a running back. It's like, man, they're due to break one. They're just getting tripped up by the shoestrings and going for 3 yards when it looks like they could have gone for 80 through the hole that was opened up. So it looked like one of those on the rewatch. I promise you, if you go back, it's not as bad as what it was. And the second half's a totally different story.
Yeah.
But that offense just could not get going all game long. You look at 130 yards passing. That's just, or 131, I think. It's not good. 13 of 36 is not good. Now, again, I said they batted down a lot of balls, or even, as it was getting ready, passes defended as they were getting ready to make a catch, and there were drops. There were 12 different pass deflections in this game out of those 36. So that brings it down to 24 that were actually catchable. And he's still only 13 to 24, but there were at least 4 drops that were pretty big drops that I saw. So it wasn't as bad, but you still have to say that was not good. It was not a good effort. Not effort. I mean, the effort's there. It was not good completion percentage. It was not a good statistical day. And late in the game, it just seemed like we were overthrowing everything when we could go down to score. The last 2 drives, we had guys in the end zone, and it was just an overthrow. It's where we could have really made an attempt late. But we just never got clicking. It just did not work out. And the offense left the defense on the field for so many 3-and-outs, or because it was so many passes, it was a 46-second drive, or it was a 35-second drive, or something like that. The defense was just constantly going back out there and having to battle. That's really where this one came into play.
Yeah. And look, I'm going to sound like a big hater here for a minute. And I don't mean to come off this way, but 12 passes defended is a lot of freaking passes defended for a defense. I mean, it's a shit ton.
Yeah, it is.
But you can't, obviously you can't take all 12 of those and just say, all right, well, then that makes him 13 of 24.
No, and I'm not saying that. I'm saying out that left 24, and he was still only 13 to 24.
So what I'm saying is, you need better ball placement. If they're getting 12 passes defended, obviously you need to try to hit a different receiver, or the receiver you want in such an area that only your guy can catch the ball if you can. Now, is it that easy? No, it's not that easy, because if it were that easy, then everybody would freaking do it. I get it. So, but at the end of the day, you can't turn, and I'm not saying you specifically. You can't say 13 of 36 and then just whittle it down and go, well, it's really 13 of 18. And
sure.
I know that's not what you're doing, because I'm also going to come right back on the positive with you and say, yeah, you have a dropped sure touchdown, right? Which vastly improves the stat line and the score overall. And then you have another dropped really long pass later in the day by Metcalf, which vastly improves the stat line. Doesn't do much for the completion percentage. 2 huge plays that inevitably impact the scoreboard. That if those just 2 make a difference and nothing else does, and you're only 15 of 36, your yardage is probably getting closer to 200 now, and you've got at least 1 more touchdown on the board.
Yeah, and what it could have done definitely on some of these coming out, that Metcalf one, I'm thinking was the third play of the second half. So we came out and we threw 3, and there were 2 drops. There was a pass defended or an overthrow. I can't remember, but it was an incompletion. Then we had 2 drops, and the one was a sure first down. I mean, it was past the wide receiver. I mean, past the yardage marker, and there were several of those that you're like, hey, if they catch that ball, that's first down. Well, that extends your time of possession. Mm-hmm. That changes the field position. So you're not, even if you go 3 and out in your next series, or next 3 plays, you're still not punting from back where you were, and it helps flip the field a little bit. It's just, it wasn't just on the scoreboard and the stats. It really would have changed the complexion of this game. And I'm still not saying Stone Earl had an amazing game.
No.
I'm not trying to bargain with anybody. When I say just listen objectively, 12 pass defenses are abnormal.
Yeah.
And we're sitting here praising, and we're going to be doing so here in a minute, praising Marshall's defense for the things that they did. You have to give the flowers to Virginia Tech on what they were doing. This was not Stony Brook. This was not someone we're playing in conference. This was an amazing defensive effort by this team. And that's really, when you go back and look, and we're saying, look at how bad the stats are for Virginia Tech. That's indicative of our defense, not how bad they are as an offense, because they have the talent. They have the ability. Trust me. Drones threw for 322 in their loss a week ago, and in the second half was throwing it all over the field. Besides one big play, again, they would have had 81 yards of passing the entire game. He rushed 15 times for 13 yards. I mean, we just bottled him up and would have sacked him about 5 or 6 more times if he wasn't a frickin' linebacker out there at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get into the defense too. I don't want to harp on that, but I'm just saying you can't just say how inept the offense was, even though it was when you look at the stats. It was because Virginia Tech was out there too on their defense. You can't just stay in a vacuum.
Yeah.
We're bad. We're always going to be bad. We're not always going to go up an effort. If we play Virginia Tech 100 times, that might be the only game out of 100 that they have 12 pass deflections.
And it most likely would be. And that's why I didn't use the word inept. That's why I used the word stagnant, because they weren't horrid. They just couldn't get going. It was just, they were stuck. It was like they were in thick mud and they couldn't get it going, And you're right. I'm about to talk about this defense, and after I give you the stat leaders, the very first bullet point is how well of a job they did against drones, and had nearly a mirror image stat day than Stone Earl. But me, as a selfish Herd fan, says, I don't care. I expect my quarterback to rise above an awesome defensive effort and put up good numbers anyway, damn it, because I'm a Herd fan. That's what I want to see. So defensively, Landon Watson led the day for the Herd, 12 tackles in a career day in a Herd uniform, 4 solo and a tackle for loss. Then you got a trio of guys who notched 10 tackles apiece. J.J. Roberts, 10 tackles, 3 solo. Jaden Yates again with another awesome day, 10 tackles, 2 solo, half tackle for loss. And Dave Harris also 10 tackles, 1 solo, half a tackle for loss, and he also gets himself a pass defended. Mike Green, 5 tackles on the day, 3 of those solo, but he gets 2 sacks on the day and 2 tackles for loss. Impact plays for the Herd, 4 total sacks against the Hokie offense, 2 by Mike Green. J.J. Hawkins gets 1, and Raekwon Thompson gets the 4th. You get 9 tackles for loss. The Herd, conversely, only 3 passes defended as a team, 4 times as many by the Hokies. But you're right. Bullet points for me. They did a really solid job on drones. You mentioned 14 of 21, just a $130 passing. He did have a touchdown, and 15 carries for just 13 yards rushing. And he did have a rushing touchdown with a long of 10. So think about that. 14 other carries accounted for 3 yards. Of course, the sacks contribute to that. Here's the biggest and best one for me. Those linebackers, to me now, having played Stony Brook and now having played a P4 opponent, Virginia Tech, vastly different than a Stony Brook offense. They stepped up again. They've proven that they've got guys that can play. To me, there are not question marks. We know they can play. Landon Watson, Jaden Yates, what a duo, right? What a duo in this young season. Of course, Columbus is a different animal. They go out and perform there again. You really have to put to bed to all the questions that we had surrounding a total revamp of the linebacking room. And then Mike Green is off to what I'm considering a very, very early Sun Belt Conference Defensive Player of the Year type season. He needed this big game, this 2-sack performance against Virginia Tech. He's going to need something similar against Ohio State to really put some separation between him and, you know, everybody else kind of in the Sun Belt or with the upper echelon of Sun Belt players. So how about this Herd defense?
Yeah, let me tell you first about what these stats are not going to tell you. They're not going to tell you that Mike Green basically had to pay rent. He was living in that backfield so much. He hit Bashal Tootin, and I hope he's okay, because when I saw it on the replay, I immediately thought they might need to go put a sheet over that guy. They handed or faked a handoff to him, and Green just exploded into him. And he didn't come back in the game, and it's probably good that he didn't. But it was one of those, you know, fake the handoff, keep it, and go over here. And Green had so many of those where he hit drones or he hit Tootin, and it just happened that they had pulled it and went the other way, you know, on this. And I said this in the preview. It's like a modern-day triple option with the wide receiver jet sweeps and the motion that they're doing. They were running a lot of option and triple option only with that in mind, instead of the traditional Nebraska, what we would think of the triple option or the service academies. Green was getting back there, and just either because of him, they went the other way, or he just decided, hey, I'm going to make this read, and at the last second, they were able to get it away. But he was absolutely close to 7 sacks on the day, at least 7 tackles for losses. I can't tell you, I think at least 3 times. I know 2, Drones was down and his knee was almost down, and he flipped the ball forward. And at least one of those, you know, they finally called pass interference. Another one was for a different penalty. It was illegal blindside block on the wide receiver. But we were in that backfield all day long. Yeah. We neutralized their pass. We neutralized their run. The big thing is how often we were on the field to where it wore us down. And I started to do these. I don't have them all, but the field position for Virginia Tech, the first quarter was their 25, 20, 30, 50, and then 20, 50, 28, 18, 32, 50, 35, 44. You know, 3 times they're on the 50. Once they're on our 35, it's no wonder that they got 2 touchdowns on those. Mm-hmm. You know, one time they started on our 35. They immediately had a 15-yard penalty. They were at the 50. They get it down to 1st and goal at like the 3. Guaranteed touchdown, right, for this big 6'4" linebacker that they've got at quarterback. No, held them to a field goal. Mm-hmm. This was just an amazing effort all around. And you look at those tackles, you know, the 12, the 10, the 10, the 10, J.C. Anderson at 7, you know, with mm-hmm. 2 solo. It was just a hellacious effort by everybody. And I can't say good enough about what they almost got to do, but only because they were going up against such a good offense that these guys got away and were able to throw it away, or got away and made like maybe 2 yards on a rush instead of getting sacked.
You know what? And I think because of how good this defense is mm-hmm. and has been for mm-hmm. a couple of years is what infuriates many fans about why the hell can't we replicate that on an offensive side of the football? You know, like, what the hell, man? Like we field these dominant, smothering, ball hawking defenses year in and year out, and we can't figure out how to put together a scoring offense.
Virginia Tech returned 9 of their 12 or 9 of 11 on offense and something crazy. It's like 19 of 22 on both sides of the ball that they returned. You ask them over there if they have a horrible offense. Now, a lot of people will probably say, yeah, because they didn't do that. But people that know are going to say, no, we have a great offense. We just got stymied by a great Marshall defense. So we have to remember that as well and say, yes, our offense had bad numbers. They could not get anything going. That was a very good defense that we just played. That was a fast defense. They had a guy that his nickname is the mayor of Saxburg, and I don't think that he got in our backfield except for one time, and that was when he got called for jumping the snap early and got called for offsides. One thing that we did not talk about the offense when we were talking about that is how dominant our offensive line has been, that they gave up 2 sacks only, 2 sacks. And this defensive front 7 is, besides Ohio State, probably the best ones that we're going to face all year. And our offensive line basically said, no, we can handle you. And that was a question mark coming into the season, and they played lights out.
Yeah, there have been a lot of some questions answered, right? But until I think it goes back to the air raid sell. I think that's what it is, and fans were expecting something that we haven't seen yet. And they're not good. They're not going to care that you're playing a good defense. That's what it is, man. They don't want to look at that. They were like, look, man, we were promised points and yards. That's what we were promised. And we're not getting that. I mean, you get it against Stony Brook, but I mentioned that in that recap. That was 45 points, and it didn't feel like this just onslaught. It didn't feel like that. If you look at the stats, that's what it was, but it didn't feel like that in real time. And then you show up at Virginia Tech and you think, okay, even preseason, we did our predictions. I was like, this is going to be a loss. And I knew that going in, and I let one game and a loss to Vanderbilt in overtime change my entire complexion and go, you know what, we can go up there and we can win this game. And we could have, but we just didn't do enough. Like I might be wrong. I might be wrong in my assessment and how I'm feeling about it and all this stuff, but I know I'm not alone, because there's a lot of people that are like, what the hell, man? This is not what we were told we were going to get. And I get that.
2 quick things before we get into the grades and all that and move on. But one, about the air raid. We threw way more than we ran in this game. And that's kind of indicative of what an air raid is. If an air raid was always going to be successful, everyone would just run the air raid. Every single team would just run the air raid, and they'd never win. It'd be a shootout, and whoever got one interception would be the one that got it, because the air raid's so damn successful. All you have to do is run an air raid and you win. Well, it's not that. And we all know that. There's been countless air raids that haven't just ran the table in college football. And it comes down to execution. And in this game, we didn't execute. We were up against a very good defense. We also had problems with accuracy from our quarterback. You can't be throwing over 2 touchdowns late in the game that looked like they were wide open guaranteed and say that was a success. And I'm not doing that. But the air raid was there. It just didn't work this game. And you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want people to abandon because of one game, the second game of the year that just happened to be at Virginia Tech against 65,000 people, that nearly everybody that's watching and listening to this, when they were in the preseason, either made statements or posts that we could go back and see, or if you could go back and reflect on it yourself, you would be able to tell yourself, yeah, they had Virginia Tech and Ohio State as guaranteed losses. Yet they are complaining about this because we had a chance to win. Well, listen, chances to win are still losses a lot of times. It does suck because we could have won this game. And I'm not making an excuse. We could have won this game. But a lot of the people that are saying the season's over and we're not going to win another game, or we'll be lucky to win this and that, they had us at 4-8 going into this. We'll be lucky to win 4 games. And then they're like, oh, I can't believe we lost to Virginia Tech. Damn it, you just said 2 weeks ago there's no chance,
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is listen objectively to what I'm saying from watching it again. If you got the opportunity, go watch it again. The first half was not near as bad as what it was perceived by me, who was watching there live in person. And I was like, man, this guy's off. He's just not throwing well. He was throwing well, and it just was not happening. And then in the second half, definitely the fourth quarter, he was not throwing well.
Yeah, so that's going to pose a couple of questions here in a little bit for grades. But first, let's talk about special teams because it was both the high point and the really low point of the game for Marshall. Reese Verhoff, 0 of 1 on field goals. He missed from 48 yards out, 2 of 2 on extra points. It seems like Reese early on is good from 40 in. You know, he hit that 145, missed one from 42 or whatever, and now he's missed from 48. It feels like 40 is like, you know, anything beyond that, unless it's a dire situation, you might want to consider going for it if it's a 4th and short type of thing. I don't know. I'm not a coach. I'm just saying. I don't want the kid to continually get put out there, you know, in these 45 plus scenarios and not be able to connect for you.
Well, let me tell you, 48. He was definitely good from 48 on distance and height and everything. Like I said last week, it used to be he was kicking a flat ball to where I would say, man, if it's more than 40 yards at all, it's just asking to get blocked. And that's not there anymore. He has drastically improved it. The accuracy, he pushed it. It went wide right. So it is one of these situations where, you know, I don't know what a good percentage is from 45 plus nationally. I don't know where to rank that. But he did give me at least a glimmer of hope that I said, I can see him hitting some 48-yarders when we need them.
Maybe, right? Maybe. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying early on in this young season, he's now 1 of 3, and all have been 40 plus.
Yeah, it was 46, 44. I know they had him listed at 45 and 42, but it was 46, 44, and 48. He hit that one from 46. This one had plenty of leg from 48. He was just wide right.
Plenty of legs, only half the battle, right?
I know it is, but what I'm saying is 2 years ago and last year, they weren't even putting him out there for those.
Because I understand what you're saying. I agree with you. Alec Clark, 8 punts on the day, 321 total yards, a 40.1 yard average, along of 52, none inside the 20, 1 touchback. Ian Foster had just 1 kick return on the day, went for 16 yards. Elijah Metcalf and Amir Foster split duty on punt returns. Metcalf had 3 for 25 total yards, along of 16. Amir Foster 1 punt return for 18 yards, but it was Amir Foster on the other side of the special teams that really did the damage. He's the one that blocked the Hokies punt that set up the first Herd touchdown, a 1-play 5-yard run by Ethan Payne to get into the end zone. Alec Clark, back to the punts. A 40-yard average is something that I like seeing. An average that starts with a 4 is generally a really good thing. A long of 52 is another thing that I like to see. That generally means you had a pretty good day. He had a 20-yard punt that led to a Hokies field goal, and he had a 30-yard punt that led directly to a Hokies touchdown. 10 points off of 2 bad punts that changed the trajectory of this game. And one was right out of the gate on the second half. Marshall goes 3 and out. You get a bad punt, and then the Hokies go 12 plays on a touchdown drive that takes up like 6 minutes or something like that. Just almost the worst possible scenario to start a second half of what was a close ball game. And then, of course, also on top of that, you give up a punt return to the Hokies for touchdown to kick off their scoring. So this was a hodgepodge of what was great and what was terrible for Marshall in this game. So real quick before we go to grades, anything else about special teams?
No, just there on the play for the punt block. That was a design play. Amir Foster had lined up to block the gunner, and then right before the snap, he ran in so he could have his momentum. He went in, took a perfect angle. You could tell they had practiced this. It was called by the coaches at the exact right time, in the exact right spot, because You do that at midfield. Maybe you don't try to go block for that, because there's a chance it's a touchback. It's a chance that you give them another first down or something by running into the kicker. But here, beautiful, well executed, great play call at a great time. The 2 punts came off of Clark and went out of bounds. So it wasn't like, he just pooched them or something. And they went out of bounds is why they were that short. That's still part of the game. I'm just saying, it wasn't like that he kicked it and all he could manage was 20 yards in the air.
No.
It was just, it came off at a horrible angle and he shanked it.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Same with Verhoff. Leg strength is only half the battle. And,
it is.
And shanking kicks out of bounds or punts out of bounds, same difference. The thing that sucked about it is that both of those bad punts led immediately to points for the opponent. So 10 points added to the board. And a special teams punt return for a touchdown. Add that up, dude. That is 17 points given up or allowed due to special teams gaffes. And that was the difference in the game, 31-7 to 14. Anyway, so let's move into some grades because we are an hour into this episode already. And I know this is going to spark a lot of discussion as well. It should. So let's start it off. What do you got for your quarterback grade for Virginia Tech or for Stone Earl against Virginia Tech?
F+, and it was obvious that it needs to be an F because of the stats, the lack of completions, the lack of getting any drives going, so many 3 and outs, the overthrows at the end of the game. But the reason that I put the plus on there to get it closer to a D- was because that first half, out of the 14 passes that he threw, 1 was overthrown. The rest were just really good plays or drops, really good plays by the defensive backs or drops. Late in the game, like I said, I couldn't say that. He was wildly inaccurate overthrowing toward the end of the game and missed some receivers that could have been first downs, touchdowns, that sort of thing. So I have to go F+.
Okay, F+, which now begs the question, why the hell do you not at least try Braylon Braxton or Cole Pennington at some point in the freaking game when you see that it's just not working for whatever? I don't care if it's good defense. I don't care if it's drops, because it might just be the shakeup that you need to get something going. So why not give QB2 an opportunity?
So I said the same thing. I said it at the game. I said it during the rewatch. The only thing is during the rewatch is, like I said, it felt like you could see him breaking out at any point because he wasn't through the first half throwing just wildly everywhere. He hadn't had a bunch of interceptions. I think if he throws a pick in the first half, he might have got pulled, but it was like, all right, well, we're going to come out, we're going to do this in the second half. We come out and we throw 3 straight times and 2 of them were drops, and it would have been first down and first down, but it was a 3 and out in like 46 seconds. Mm-hmm. So then you're like, okay, well, maybe now's the time that they're going to take him out. But they didn't, and A.J. Turner gets a 69-yarder, and then, we throw a beautiful ball for a touchdown. You're like, okay, now I see why he's going to stay in for another. So I kept on extending why on the rewatch. Okay, I could see why he's staying out here again. I'd originally said in the first half, second quarter, man, you got to go with somebody else. We're just not moving the ball. Then I said, okay, second half, you got to go with somebody else. So I kept extending that out. I don't have an answer for the fourth quarter. I felt like by that time we should have at least put somebody in just to see. Now, I said this on the post-game spaces. I said it earlier on Twitter as well. I can remember Southern Miss when Alex Thompson was starting and he threw an interception and he was not doing anything. And I said, can we not get Isaiah Green in? I said it way back on social media. Can we not get Isaiah Green in? The very next series they put him in. The first play, he fumbled the snap. It got picked up for a scoop and a score. And the one time he touched the ball, he didn't even get to throw it. And I'm like, okay, so bringing somebody in doesn't automatically mean we're going to be doing something different. It could have been way worse if we brought him in. But I'm still saying, because again, they weren't throwing a lot of interceptions. I'm still saying it could have been worse, but I'm still on the board of why not bring him in and just see what happens. What can it hurt at that point?
Yeah, it could have been worse.
It could have been worse.
But not much worse, right? Not much worse, because you're not at that point. You're not getting anything going. But
Well, it could have been a lot more turnovers, is what I'm saying. You don't know.
It could have, right? You don't know, because it could have also been the other way. It could have been like, oh, okay. Well, now all of a sudden there's a little extra zip on this pass. Those balls aren't getting deflected or whatever, or those receivers for whatever reason now aren't dropping that pass. They're catching that pass. Who knows? Who knows what it is? And I don't want to hear anybody give me the like, well, you don't want to rattle his confidence or anything. Bullcrap. These are Division I athletes who know what the stakes are in these games, and nobody is so soft mentally, especially a quarterback. That
Quarterbacks are not.
To getting pulled from a game is just going to shatter your confidence. No, it is not, because all those guys put on their big boy pants every day, and they go to practice and they hit each other, and they study the playbook, and they study the film, and they know that they could be one play away, right, from injury or getting pulled, or this going in. So you can't give me that argument. The other thing that I have to talk about is, I tweeted this earlier. All summer long, it was like, these quarterbacks are so close together, man. We can't name a starter. It's like nobody distanced themselves. So you can't tell me that a talent drop-off would have occurred if everybody was so close together. At that point, even it could be much worse argument gets really minimized, because all these guys were supposed to be so close together in talent level anyway. So why not give them a shot? Just give them a shot. And if it didn't work, you can take them right back out, put Earl back in, at least for one series or one drive. Stone Earl gets the opportunity to see what this defense is doing from a different perspective, maybe on the sideline or whatever, and he can maybe see things that he wasn't seeing with the viewpoint he had. I don't know, but it wasn't working, and it felt like you just needed to do something to try to get it working. And I believe, honestly, Russ, that is what a lot of the fans on the social media timelines were mad about. It was like, show us that you're willing to do something to make a change. Doesn't mean it's the right decision. I think they just wanted to see something,
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying, though, I've seen a lot of people almost guarantee that that's all it would have took was, a quarterback change.
Most popular guy on the roster, except for Marshall's most popular guy on the roster is quarterback number 3.
But you know what I'm saying? I've already said, yes, I thought that we should have made the change. On the rewatch, and not being up at 85,000 feet in the stadium, I said, oh, I could see, he's throwing better than what I thought. Honestly, man, I didn't see that one of the receivers, Fitzpatrick, on the route, he had the receiver beat, the guy just held him, and it was an overthrow. All I saw was it was an overthrow.
Sure.
And I didn't see that Brian Robinson, the ball hit him in the hands in stride, as he is basically going to trot into the end zone early in the game, and it ended up being a punt instead. I didn't see all that stuff. So I understood why it was delayed from my point of view. I was like, yeah, I probably wouldn't have taken him out there anyway, because it's only been 3 drives. You got to give him a chance, because, hell, they've been holding the receiver. They've had drops and all that. Toward the end of the game, I didn't have that benefit of the doubt. Even on the rewatch, I'm like, man, he's just overthrowing.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I think we should have seen a Braylon Braxton or a Cole Pennington in the game for at least a series to say, is it going to work? But I have to remind everybody, again, I said in 2018, for the love of God, why are we not putting Isaiah Green in the game? And the very first thing that they did was, it was a shotgun snap. And if you remember that game, he had been injured the week prior, and he couldn't basically even catch the snap. He couldn't bend down for it or whatever, his lower snap. And it was like immediately they hit him. It went for a sack. He fumbled it. They scoop and score. They ran it into the end zone. It could have been, Alex Thompson may not have done that, is what I'm saying. It's not a given that just because we make a change, all of a sudden we're going to say, oh, hey, everything's great. Now we're going to win this game by 30. And that's kind of the feeling I got from a lot of people, is like, anyone could have done this, man. All you got to do is put a quarterback change in, and then we win that game. It's not necessarily that easy.
The feeling I get is like, all right, when it looks like the game is, you're not going to win.
Mm-hmm.
Give them a shot. See if you spark the offense, and then I understand you open yourself up to the backlash of going, well, see, why didn't you do that earlier? It was immediate impact. So there's really, you can get flack you're going to get flack no matter what decision you make, right?
Sure.
I mean, that's the nature of coaching, right? I'm not here to second guess every decision that our coaches make, but I give things of the way I see them and the way I think. And it's like, man, just give them a shot. Just give them a freaking shot. And I don't know, but you come with an F+ grade, that tells me, dude, somebody deserved a shot,
And that's why I said, I was at the game. I was saying, no way in the second quarter we don't see Braylon Braxton. And then no way in the second half starting out we don't see Braylon Braxton. And it just kept going further and further. And then I was like, toward the end of the game, it was like, obviously, here's where it's going to happen. And it didn't happen. So, yeah, I'm in agreement. I'm just trying to tell everybody that's watching and listening, and what they may be putting on Twitter is, it was not a guarantee that all we had to do was start somebody else and we won that game. It was not a guarantee that if we put somebody in, we were immediately going to, have Byron Leftwich at the GMAC Bowl with a hell of a comeback. It's not always cut and dry and easy. Otherwise, we would all be coaches. We would just do it.
I don't think anybody wants that. And also, they don't care. Their opinion is right, in case you didn't know. Offensively, what do you got for this herd?
D-. There's no real reason to go into the whys. I mean, you put up 14 points and 7 of them were from the offense. The other one, even though it was an offensive touchdown, it was 1st and goal on the 5.
Set up by the special teams for sure.
Yeah, yards weren't there.
There were not enough. There were not enough good plays to outshine the plays that were not made. Right.
Too many 3 and outs, 5 and outs, that sort of thing.
8. I counted them. 8 3 and outs and a 4 and out. 8 punts on the day. I mean, you can't have that, man. You can't have that. I don't know that, but this one for me will always probably be remembered for the Christian Fitzpatrick catch. And I tweeted this to our buddy Moff. He took a jab at me because I made that photo. It's my phone wallpaper now, and I was like, man, this is sweet. This is a sweet catch. And he was like, yeah, pull a positive out of something, right? And I was like, dude, long after I forget the score of this game, I'll remember that catch, because I couldn't tell you the score of the East Carolina game when Dobson made the backhanded catch, but I remember that damn catch. You know what I mean? That is a play that will live in herd lore forever. The other positive really is that A.J. Turner is just that guy. He's got that burst. He's got those moves. You love to see it. The D to me also just gets stamped home because I need to see Cade Conley involved. I need to see Toby Payne involved. I mean, it's apparent Fitzpatrick is the guy, dude. He is legit. He is who he is, and he is a weapon. And most of the time, so is Metcalf. But I need to see Conley and Toby Payne too.
They did throw to Payne twice in this. He had the one catch, and the other I can't remember if it was a batted ball or a drop or what it was, but it was an incompletion. But they did at least target twice when they didn't have any targets in week 1. I do think once it gets to Western Michigan and conference play, we're going to see that a lot more to our tight ends. I just know they're too talented, and we're going to have to do that.
Sure.
Adjustments are going to have to be made. Only other thing that I want to say, you mentioned A.J. Turner. He had an amazing game. That's back-to-back 2 games. When he got tackled, I couldn't tell what the injury was, but I saw that they had him. They had to stop the game. But someone watching at home texted me, and they said he fell on his shoulder it's like looks like he messed his shoulder up pretty good. And watching the game on the rewatch, I could tell that he did do that. So that looks like that's the reason he wasn't getting so many touches there until he did come back in the game a little bit later on after they had worked on his shoulder. But it looked like at least a stinger or something took him out for a while.
Yeah, so I also wouldn't expect to see him get a heavy dose of yardage or carries against Ohio State because why?
Mhm.
Why give him some carries? I mean,
Yeah, sure.
God, Jiminy Christmas, he practices his ass off to be able to play against a team like Ohio State. So give him
Right.
some carries, but you don't want to open him up to any unnecessary damage. You don't want to,
Yeah.
because if he's going to be the weapon that he has shown to be, you're going to
Mhm.
want him 2 weeks later when you play against App State and start going through that Sun Belt Conference slate. But he has been a real bright spot early on. There's a handful of guys that have been a big bright spot. And either guys that saw limited action like Turner, who was buried in the depth chart behind Ali, behind LeBourne, right? Or portal guys that we just didn't know anything about. And they've just shown I'm here and I'm legit and I'm the guy that you need. And so a lot of positive individuals, but we need to put it together as an offensive unit. Defensively, what do you got for the Herd?
A-, and I'm not even penalizing them for the late scores and everything because they were on the field for so long. Really, it's an A- instead of an A+ because there were a couple of penalties. So I'll do that. And then also, too, man, Ian Foster had one in his hands on the Virginia Tech side of the field for a jumping interception that he just could not hold on to. A couple of different things go different. This game is totally different if we get that ball there. I'm not saying Ian Foster cost him from getting an A+. I'm just saying there were a couple of little things all around that I can't give a solid A or a solid A+, but penalties more than anything.
Yeah, the thing is that we can't continue to have is to put these guys to live and die by that time of possession metric.
Right.
That's just killer. You have to be able to move the football and possess the football and let those guys stay fresh. I mean, we're really deep, but still, I saw a stat line for Tyquez Legs in this game, so we know that he played. Still no Isaiah Gibson, right?
No, and I can tell you Legs on the rewatch. I couldn't even, like I said, I couldn't see the daggone numbers and everything, so I didn't know that he played until I watched the rewatch. And on 2 separate occasions, they had to take him off the field. He came in obviously not at 100%, missing last week's game, or if he wasn't 100% last week, if
Right.
he was 100% for this. But 2 different times they had to take him off, and one of them it looked like he got rolled up on his leg, which happens on the defensive line, and offensive line quite a bit. So he took a beating during this game, but he did have some stats, and he was in there, and he made an impact while he was in.
So that's what I'm saying, right? You can't live and die by the time of possession because even though you're deep, you're still not at full strength. And late in games, it's just not going to be enough. The offense has got to help these guys and do their part. At least I don't mind losing the time of possession battle. Of course, you want to win it, but I don't want to be minus 12, 50, minus almost 13 minutes. Also, again, I got to give praise to these linebackers. They've been great early in the season. Jaden Yates is everything as advertised and more as a youngster. Landon Watson, for a guy that came to us in the portal last year with virtually no stats, we didn't know what we were getting, has been a monster through 2 games. This duo is unbelievable so far. Mike Green is who we knew he was, right? And the other cool thing is that the Herd is getting quarterback sacks, and they're coming from all kinds of players. It's not just 3 of them have come from Mike Green, right? But there's been 3 or 4 other guys that have notched a sack. So you can't just focus on one dude because other guys can hurt you. And that's going to be huge when we start getting into the Sun Belt Conference slate. All right, special teams. Who you got?
I've got an even C, and it was kind of like, you were saying extreme on both ends. I got them right there in the middle as a C, mainly piggybacked by the punt returns that we had. We had that was non-existent last year. We came close to breaking a couple and got some decent yardage out of them, 18 yards and 16 yards on the punt return to help try to flip the field. And that punt block, just the timing of when to call it, the execution of it, and everything. Really on your special teams, though, you gave up the punt return for a touchdown. you had 2 less than ideal punts, and you had a missed field goal. So I've just got them right in the middle, but the extreme on the one end of the execution on that did a lot of heavy lifting on that grade.
I would say it would have had to, because, man, that's a generous grade considering you give up a punt return for a touchdown, you miss a field goal, and you have 2 punts that lead to another 10 points. Like, so many points were left off the board or put onto the board as a result of Herd special teams. I think that is very, very generous. What do you got for our coaches this week?
D+, and a lot of that, again, is we came in with an amazing defensive game plan. We can't talk about how well the defense played and how they played and not attribute some of that to the game plan of the coaches. The special teams play, like I said, was a specifically timed, let's run this play right now, go for this block. Mm-hmm. So that does the lifting. The obvious is the offense and how it played, and that we didn't see a different quarterback in there to try to get a spark comes real close to bringing it down to the F. Or, a lot of that was just, look how great the defense played. We came in with a great game plan. We neutralized drones. Again, you take away that 49-yard pass, it would have been 81 yards of passing and 13 yards of rushing against this guy that everyone was saying was just going to dominate and run all over everybody. We had a really good game plan. The offense just did not work out, and a huge ding for us not putting Braxton in.
Yeah, I know. I feel like I'm a broken record. I feel like I've been singing the same song for so many weeks, right? Defense played great. Offense couldn't get it done. Defense played lights out. Offense couldn't do it, right? And that's what I'm doing again. And I'm just getting tired of doing it. I'm not here to second guess our coaches, and I kind of am a little bit, but I'm still very much support the Herd and what they are trying to do. Mm-hmm. It's just like, damn, man, give me something, and fair or unfair. I'm not here to make enemies of anybody. I'm not here to do any of that. I'm not here to make hot takes and have outlandish lines. I'm not trying to go viral. Don't give two craps about any of that stuff, right? It's just like, man, it felt like for so long in this particular game, Marshall had opportunities to claw back in it, stay in it, or even take a lead, and just didn't do it. And I know coaches can only call the plays they call. They're not out there executing those plays. But any good coach will tell you they take all of the criticism and none of the credit, right? Mm-hmm. So as a decent fan, I feel like that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to give them all of the criticism and none of the credit, right? And it's just where I'm at. This was a winnable game that was not won, and it didn't feel like there was enough urgency to go grasp that win. That's kind of where I'm at with it. What do you got for the fans this week?
B+, great turnout down there. As with just anything, it's the ones that are way, way, way out in left field with their comments and things. No one is intentionally trying to lose every game at Marshall.
Got to be the funniest conspiracy theory going around Herd Athletics right now.
when you're the same people, like I said, that says, we're going to go 2-10, or we'll be lucky to win 4 games, or we might not win a game this year, just the most outlandish comments. And then you get pissed off when we lose a game. I don't get it. I mean, I don't like to lose, I don't. I don't like to lose in anything. If we play checkers, I'm going to get pissed if I lose. But just settle down a little bit and maybe give it a little bit of time. we did the post-game spaces, and I was expecting here's me not on social media at all, as I, am at the game and then drive home 3+ hours from the game. And I get home after midnight, and I look at that and I was like, holy hell, Marshall Twitter is burning. And I just went to bed. So I got to do the spaces the next day. And I just assumed, man, I might as well just, hit mute on my microphone and let everybody go off for a while. And everybody was taking a very reasonable approach to everything. And it was so refreshing. So B plus for the fans. And really, it's only the ones that are out there on the fringe that I almost just don't want to even consider them when I'm doing the grades anymore, because if I did, they're always going to bring it down because, again, no one is intentionally trying to lose games at Marshall. It's not happening.
I love that conspiracy theory. Like, I love it. I think that's the most hilarious thing ever. Like, nobody is going to intentionally lose games. God. Anyway, I don't even want to entertain that thought anymore. That's so funny. Overall, what do you got?
C minus. Again, we went down there and we made a lot of people realize what Marshall could do. The fan base travels well to these games. The experience was great. But if we would have lost like 34-31 like I had predicted, I would have probably had a saltier damn taste in my mouth if we lost on a last-second field goal than losing by 17. And I know that sounds bad, but by the end of the game, when we're down 17 and the time was running out and there was no chance that we're going to come back and win that game, it's almost like when you can prepare yourself for a family death or something.
No.
Yeah, no. Okay, listen. You're down by 17 and there's a minute left. You can start saying, okay, but you don't lose.
I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying that ain't me, dude. I want to lose 31-30 on a last second field goal. That's me. That's what I want.
I don't want to lose on any of them.
Well, me neither, but I don't want to. I'd rather.
But I'm saying it would. I'm trying to explain a freaking grade. I'm saying it wouldn't have been a C minus if we lost on a last second field goal. It would have been a much worse experience.
Yeah.
Or if there was some kind of penalty that would have caused us to lose the game, that I would still be bitching about.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It was just, it is what it is. That's why it's a C minus.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been an F if I would have came from like the triple overtime loss down there where they might as well had 15 people on the field and 4 of them were in stripes, hanging off of you and saying, no, that's not pass interference. You know what I'm saying? That would have brought a much bigger guttural reaction from me that would have got a different grade. I'm trying to explain. It's my grade, man. I'll explain it if I want to say it's from a freaking family death. I'll say it's from a freaking family death. Get your own grade.
You can grade however you want. I'm just saying I am not the guy that would rather, if I'm going to lose a game, I want to lose it at the end, right? Not well, this one's well in hand for them. Screw that shit. I want to be. But you're right. I would not be okay with it being like in the hands of the officials.
Right.
The official taking the game away from you. I'll never be okay with that.
That's what I'm saying. It would have been a different grade.
Yes.
I'm not saying I'm happy with the score.
No, that's not what I meant at all. I just meant like, man, you said I'd rather lose so I can start to process it rather than at the very end. And I'm like, nah, I want to lose at the very end. I want to know that I'm in it with a chance to win it and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, who's your offensive MVP for this one?
AJ Turner.
Okay, I went back and forth between he and AJ and Fitzpatrick, and I leaned towards Fitzpatrick because he found the end zone and he had the awesome catch that will stick with me forever. AJ Turner, what an awesome run, 69-yarder, just could not hit to the end zone, but man, a lot of promise for him in this young season. I love the pick of Turner for you, but I'm just leaning towards Fitz this week.
My explanation for that was because without that long run, we wouldn't have even been down there to get Fitzpatrick that touchdown.
That's true.
So that's why I went with Turner.
Very true. Defensively, who you got this week?
Had to go with the whole squad, team effort, so many different individual efforts where everyone was saying you could point to that guy and say, that was your MVP, that was your MVP. So many people put up MVP numbers. The true fact is, without everyone playing together like they did, we would not have been anywhere in this game with the offensive output that we had. Whole squad gets it from me.
It's a good grade. I would like to say that I chose Landon Watson because I chose him in the preview to go off and be my MVP going in, and he went out and had a career day, 12 tackles. So a little pat on my own back just for that selection. Who's your special teams guy, as if I had to ask?
Got to be Amir Foster.
Got to be. What a freaking execution on that block.
Wow. I do want to say, though, Ian Foster continues to be a weapon. He is the first person down on kickoffs and punts. In fact, on that punt return, we didn't talk about this earlier, but Lane, the wide receiver that was their punt returner, misjudged the ball is what it looked like to me. So he had to step up 2 or 3 yards and get it on the run, even though he wasn't full speed. We had 4 or 5 guys going to where he was prior to having to come up to get the ball, and Foster was the only one that hit him because he was the first guy there, and he got his arm on his ankle. Foster just continues to be a special teams nightmare for other teams, both returning the ball and on punt coverage and kickoff coverage.
Yeah, huge shout out to Ian Foster. He's been such a weapon, and it does not go unnoticed, especially by the guys here at the ThunderCast. Russ, you got any final words about this one before we close the book on Virginia freaking Tech?
No, just that I put Mike Green as the overall MVP, even though I gave the defense the thing. Even though you know that I cannot stand Tom Brenneman, and he was the guy calling the game on the CW. Even he said Mike Green is going to be playing on Sundays, and Mike Green has been the best player on the field, offense or defense, when Virginia Tech has the ball. So that was some great praise coming from people that don't cover Marshall. We're talking about, people on a national level, even though he's a major douchebag dumbass. And I'll tell him and his dad the same thing to their faces. They praised Mike Green, and rightfully so. Mike Green had a hellacious game, and like I said, he could have had 7 tackles for loss. I mean, he was right there on so many of them.
Yeah, awesome individual effort by him and so many guys on the Herd defense. You talked about that. You nailed it with the defensive MVP selections. All I got to say is this one's over. I'm over it, right? So, had a little lingering like, damn it, man, for, a little bit yesterday, but I'm over it. On to Ohio State in 2 weeks. We get ourselves a bye week. I think I need it. A lot of Herd fans need it to take the breath, to just decompress from a game that many viewed as winnable that just did not get adequately attacked, right? So bye week this week, which means no preview episode for a game for us. But we still got a little bit more Herd to talk about. So really quick, let's go around the Herd.
Yeah, we're going to start with volleyball. They beat Oakland 3-1, George Washington 3-1, and then came from behind to beat Eastern Michigan on their home court 3-2 to sweep the EMU tournament. We talked about that earlier with Brim Brown being the MVP and with all the 3 all-tournament selections there. They have the Toledo tournament this weekend, Friday, Northern Kentucky at 10 a.m., Eastern Washington at 4:30 p.m., and then finish up Saturday with Toledo at noon. You can catch those on ESPN+. Cross country. This is a event going down to Boone, North Carolina. That will be this Friday, and it's called the Fire Tower Project Run. You can find out more about that at firetowerproject.org, but they will be in action down there. Hope that they have the same level or better that they had up here for their opening meet last week. Men's golf, we talked earlier about the Fee Gaines Invitational at Guyan. That started earlier today with rounds 1 and 2. Cameron Jarvis currently tied for the lead through 2 rounds at 7 under. Clayton Thomas, we mentioned, had a 62 in the first round to tie the course record. He is right behind Clayton Thomas is at 6 under. He's 1 stroke off the lead, currently in 3rd place. Marshall leads all teams at 22 under, with 2nd place Morehead State 14 under. So pretty commanding lead right now on the home course. They will finish that up tomorrow, and then we'll be able to tweet out the leaderboard who won, and hopefully we can get a individual and a team win.
Yeah.
Women's golf, they will be playing this Friday to start their season, and it'll be Friday through Sunday in Simpsonville, Kentucky for the Cardinal Cup. Remember, we talked about that a couple of weeks ago when the schedule came out. Women's soccer lost 2-0 at Ohio and then bounced back to beat Indiana State 1-0, again off a late goal to break a tie. They're actually off until conference play starts on September 22nd down at Georgia State in Atlanta. So a good little break for them. Scheduling quirk. They had their non-conference out of the way really early. Had game just stacked on top of each other. And now they get ready to head into conference play, but they'll have a long time to regroup and get going on that. And finally, men's soccer. They beat High Point 2-0. They host Gardner-Webb Tuesday at 7:15, and then host St. John's on Saturday at 7:15. So a couple of chances this week. Definitely with no home football game or away game, you've got a chance to get to the vet and celebrate this nationally ranked. We'll find out tomorrow if they move up or down or anything. Nationally ranked men's soccer team.
Not only that, you'll also get an opportunity to get out and get your tailgate on Saturday. So
yeah,
if you're gonna need a tailgate fix, hey, make sure you get down to the vet early. Get you set up down there. Shoot, man, what's stopping you, right? Nothing's stopping you. Of course, we'll have tickets. Russ will be doing his best to give those away. Again, please do not enter our giveaways unless you can go to the matches. Please, I understand that some folks want to like help spread the word and get our contest out there by just retweeting or liking or something like that. But that's how we decide who wins our tickets.
I changed it up. So,
okay.
Yeah, so what I did was, and a lot of it was one of our listeners had 4 tickets to give away. So I said comment below with either 2 or 4 to let me know. And that way all the likes and shares didn't matter. So I'll be doing something with adding a comment below, and that will be how you enter, and that'll help us get rid of this me reaching out to somebody for 45 minutes only for them to say, oh, I was just trying to help you get the word out. I have tickets, or I can't go, or I live too far away, I'm states away, that sort of all those have happened. So
be on the lookout for tweets and Facebook posts, and be prepared to leave a comment if you can go to the matches, because the whole purpose of giving away tickets is to actually get those fans in those seats to enjoy the game.
KD, that does it for Around the Herd. It's a long episode that we had here. A lot of stuff we talked about with Virginia Tech, but that's it for me. I have no closing thoughts.
Well, I don't have really any closing thoughts. I have a closing comment because I realized as I've been doing this episode that this is the first time that I'm usually drinking out of my water bottle, and I've got this. I've been drinking out of this green cup all day. So I just
the old Union cup.
St. Patty's Day 2000, baby, 2000. This is a 24-year-old mug from the Union Pub and Grill. So I just wanted to get that out there and let you know that these things have survived, man. This is like survived like nuclear winter, easily 2,000, 3,000 dishwasher cycles, man. So I must have gotten the 1%er mug from Herb that evening. But dang.
Man, anybody watching and listening, if you think that you have more mugs and glasses than I've had over the years, you are sadly mistaken. I got them honestly and dishonestly because, for 5.5 years, I was kind of partners with Herb there running the kitchen as a separate business for him. So, I got a lot of glassware that way too. I can't tell you what you would drink out of if you came to my house because I have so many of those.
Yeah, well, I don't have that. This was a St. Patty's Night special that just for somehow has survived all the moves and getting married and the kids and everything, still has lived in the cabinet all these years. So I just thought a lot of folks would get a kick out of that because, dude, the Union that's a rite of passage in Huntington and Marshall University, right? And this is OG Union. This is still address at 1205 4th Avenue, man. This is still, green phone booth in the front of the building, Union, that type of thing. But anyway, that's
shout out to Dana Watts.
That's all I got for this episode 2. I got nothing else. Take us the heck out of here.
Yeah, whether you see us at the Joan, whether you see us at the Cam, or whether you see us waiting ever so patiently to get up to Columbus, that'll happen next week. No matter where you see us, we'll be saying, go Herd.
Go Herd, relax, take a breath, and enjoy your bye week. Get out there and tailgate for some Herd soccer. We'll see you next week. Later.